Domestic violence is a vicious cycle where victims feel helpless, but as our next guest proved, it is possible to rise from the depths of despair and stop living in fear. For years, Luzelenia Casanova suffered from emotional and physical abuse, but now she is a survivor who inspires others. In her book, The Masquerade Is Over, she shares her victorious journey from what she calls a silent war. Welcome to Connecticut Style.
Thank you for inviting me.
Unfortunately, domestic abuse is not a new problem, but for you it started in your youth. Tell us your story.
Well, it started at a very young age where you didn't know if it's bad or good, but I recognized it at the age of 8 when I noticed it's something wrong. It's the fear took over, then I knew I was not in a healthy environment.
And how did it progress? How did it get worse, would you say?
Well, it got worse as I got older because now my mom felt like her anger needed to be towards me, and I needed to be like her. And when she saw that resistance, it became a little bit more difficult in our relationship, mother-daughter.
Sure. I could imagine. Now, how did you eventually change the course of your life?
It took a long time. I was in an abusive relationship from childhood to adulthood. At the age of 30 was that I discovered this is not the life I want to lead, and I actually relocated to the state of Massachusetts just to start my life over. So it took a very long time to discover this is not the life I want to lead.
And what made you decide to write the book?
A lot of friends have seen my life progress from where I started to where I'm at today, and they said, you can be an inspiration to others, why don't you write a book? And somebody planted the seed and I harvested.
And the book is more of your story, or would you say advice for people going through it, a little of both?
I did a little bit of both because I read a lot of domestic violence books, and I was a little turned off how they focus more on the violence of it. I wanted to inspire others to realize it can be done. You can start your life over and live the life you were meant to live. So it's part of my story, and then at the end is more inspirational.
Sure. What would you say are some of the common patterns of abuse?
Well, it starts a lot at the beginning of the emotional part of it. Physical, we all understand it is a big thing in domestic violence, physical. You know, you're in an abusive relationship. But there's the aspects of mental, emotionally, financially, and even sexual abuse. So there are several patterns that people are still in denial to admit that you are in an abusive relationship.
So really you have to acknowledge those things and come up with a plan before you leave, would you say?
Absolutely. I believe, like anything in life, if you don't plan for it, don't plan to succeed. So I believe that when you start planning your escape or your new life, once you write it down, you stay diligent, committed to it, because you see it on a daily basis. And if you don't plan it, guess what? You'll come back to that same environment.
Now, Luzelenia, you've gone from victim to survivor. What do you think was the moment where you realized this needed to change?
When I attempted suicide. Once I went down to that level and I realized that I was looking for an easy way out, I realized this is not for me. I have a life to lead and actually see my children grow.
Sure.
And in my deathbed, I was close to death, I had a real good revelation of what my future would be.
I guess you kind of hit rock bottom, and then you start from there.
Yes.
So let's get back to the book here. What can women find inside of it? Maybe not a plan, but again, you were talking about the inspiration.
Well, they have a blueprint of exactly.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. The last chapters I dedicated to how I went about to discover how did I build my self-confidence, my self-esteem. We hear it, but no one tells us how you go about doing it.
Sure.
So I talk about how I discovered myself, because it's kind of difficult to really find who you are.
Yeah.
And those are
Takes
the last...
a lifetime sometimes.
It does, yes. And I'm still working on myself. I found self, but she still needs to be rebuilt from time to time.
And what would you say is the next step for you? You're going to continue writing?
Yeah, I have another book I'm thinking, because my fan base are saying, you know, you left us hanging, we want more of this. So the next one is eradicating the roots of self-destruction.
Great.
And that's basically for us survivors that still walk around with this residue of past life, of hate, and just a lot of things that we need to get rid of.
Moving forward, I can understand. And we should mention the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It's 1-800-799-7233, 24 hours a day.
Yes.
You can call.
Yes.
All right, and where can we find your book?
It's wherever books are sold.
Oh, just about everywhere,
Yes,
right?
and I also have it on audio.
Very good. The name of the book again is The Masquerade Is Over. You can see it right there on your screen. We'll have more information over on WTNH.com. Just click on style. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right, coming up next, we're heading into the kitchen. Executive Chef Mary Lawrence shares our recipe for Three Sisters stew. But first, take a look at this.